I ran across a question I don't think I've answered, and that's which breviary I believe priests should use in order to fulfill their obligation under canon law. Under canon law, subdeacons, deacons, priests, and bishops are bound to the daily recitation of the divine office. And in this time, it's difficult. I know you can go and buy the 1962 breviary. In fact, I think it's like $300. But there's some serious objections to the 60 calendar. And those objections are that certain feasts were removed and reduced on modernist principles. It's not in Rubricarum Instructum, the main decree for the 60 calendar, but it is in a supporting decree for particular calendars, useless repetitions. It also says that in revising the lessons, well, basically fiction should be removed, is what they're implying in the decree. And I'll be publishing that online eventually, the supporting decree. I haven't found Rubricarum Instructum online, but I haven't looked in a while. Okay, and so that leaves us with the two other calendars. The one promulgated by Pope St. Pius X, and then I think that's Divino Afflatus, and then the one of 1955 of Pope Pius XII. I know the arguments against the 55 calendar, and I actually kind of believe the arguments. But those following either the Divino Afflatus or the 55 have the same problem. And that's finding breviaries. Don't know if you can okay, you can see the tape. It's frayed. Alright, I had to put new strings in. Alright. At least this one's not important. Okay, and so, because both the 55 and the Divino Afflatus work from the same basic breviary, because there's another question that's Old and New Psalter, which has already basically been resolved by everybody who wants to hold to a traditional breviary in favor of the Old Psalter. I know the monks of Slim did not want to. They tried to put it to Gregorian chant, it didn't work. And I've read the decree on the implementation of the new Psalter, and it was a wish and hope type decree. In other words, it was not imposed, although every breviary after 45, unfortunately, until you get to the reprints of the 60, have the new Psalter in. And I find the new Psalter difficult my own self. And so I prefer the old Psalter. If you can't find it, we're talking about in the Latin, then use the new. Okay? Because you might have trouble. It's easier to find new Psalter breviaries, nobody will buy them, including me. That's why I've got this. And so, personally, I prefer Divino Afflatus because the reductions of the 1955, I agree with some of their arguments. However, as Pope, I am not going to forbid the 55. I understand that one Sedevacantist group, the CMRI specifically, uses the 55 calendar. And if you do not accept me as Pope, but you reject John the 23rd, you must use the 55 calendar, the 55 Holy Week, out of obedience, because you are not allowed to judge the law. That is reserved to the Pope, and if you don't believe I am Pope, which some of you might not who watch this, but personally I believe the eventual restoration of the Church will go back to Divino Afflatus, possibly with some modifications, but that will be probably my successors rather than my job. Fortunately, you can get decent missals. I'm not sure if this one is still in print. This one I like because it's based on the Douay Rheims Bible, which brings me to the next point. I think there's a big problem with many priests. They are opening this breviary and they're reading Domini est terret, plenitudo eis, orbis terram, et universi qui habitat in eo, blah, blah, blah. But because their Latin is not that good, they're not taking the words to heart. In fact, they're probably just reading words, which is sufficient for the obligation. And so there are two places, Divinum Officium and Breviary.net, that offer the 55, well, the Divino Afflatus of both. Divinum Officium only has both 55 and Divino Afflatus. So you can go there and you can actually, get a web page so you can read it on your tablet or your computer. I know this might sound unorthodox, and one can foresee the liturgical changes someday when you have a tablet bearer. I would rather stick with books myself, and I think the ideal is to have printed books, but nobody's reprinting this. Nobody's reprinting the traditional missals, but fortunately there were enough of them around. They do the 60, and again, they usually insert St. Joseph in the canon, and we shouldn't do that, because that is a radical change by an anti-pope. But okay, I prefer Divino Afflatus. 55 is totally acceptable, and those who do not accept me as Pope are obliged to use the 55 calendar. Because the other is to exceed the limits of the principle they use of epikeia. Because epikeia allows us to set aside a law in an urgent case requiring immediate action. Well, it does not allow us to judge the law. That's what St. Thomas Aquinas says straight out in the Summa. That's left to the lawgiver. All we are judging is that in this particular instance, here and now, we may step aside. But I've wondered, and I just did a video a while ago on staying on point. So, you've got Divinum Officium and Breviary.net. They have Latin opposite English. I have not checked either to see if they use the Douay Rheims for their English translation or as the basis of their English translation, which I believe they should. I kind of doubt Breviary.net does, because I noticed a long time ago, every breviary I had, Trinity Sunday, was damaged. I mean, I've got 2 or 3 around here like that. I bought this set off of eBay, gosh, 5-6 years ago for about $300. You can't, I go on eBay occasionally just to have a look. You can't find these. I mean, they're rarer than hen's teeth. I did find, well, actually I contacted a seller out of Australia and purchased 3 sets for our monastery seminary project. So we would have them on hand. And he had 2 other sets, and about that time 2 other people contacted me, so I put them in straight contact with him so they could acquire them, because if I know of a resource, I don't keep it all to myself unless I plan on purchasing it all for myself, in which case I would have completed the contract. Otherwise, but he's got these, I can't afford them, I might as well let others who want to read the breviary. And so I think, in fact, this was suggested by a priest friend to our frater, who reads the breviary, to read the English and slowly move over and bring in some Latin. Now, I would like to reprint breviaries. I haven't figured out how, I'm sure it can be done. One thing, money it would take, forget it. I don't foresee that. So what I have done as part of a project is I've printed 2 books. This one has a better cover on. Breviary Lessons for the Lord's Day and Other Feasts of the Proper of the Time. Okay? Because I believe the most important part we should read and take to heart in the vernacular. Okay? Because there's such wonderful lessons in here. And another project is Lives of the Saints from the Roman Breviary. So this is the Proper of the Saints. And this also, there are wonderful lessons in here. lessons we, as priests, need to be taking to heart, which is why I did these two projects. And let me tell you, this was not an easy project. It took me, days at a time over several years to complete this project. But I thought it was so important that this be in the hands of priests, and even the faithful should have access to this. Okay? The faithful should have access to these lessons. They should actually have access to the whole breviary. There are 3 editions of the Roman Breviary in English. One is pre-Divino Afflato, which I do possess the full set. Another one is from about 50. It's a poor translation of the Psalms especially. The lessons are okay, actually. I like the lesson. And then I just bought 2 volumes of another edition, which I haven't really had a chance to even look at. Because I used to have the full set of the Roman Breviary in English from the 50, but my summer volume went AWOL. Well, I've got it replaced, so I need to get all that, what I do have, back together and in one spot. Need to get my library organized. So, I prefer Divino Afflato. 55 is permissible. Sedevacantes who reject me as Pope are obliged by the 55. I would say those who accept the usurpers as Pope are probably obliged by the 60 because of the indult of their Pope Benedict. I would call him Benedict I because he was Benedict I of the Conciliar Church. That's another story. But I know I've gone rather long on this. Divino Afflato is preferable. I believe that's what we will eventually go back to. A future Pope will probably make a revision at some point because the breviary can be revised. There's no law against it. But revision should be taken along proper lines. And I understand the arguments. I don't remember them all right now, but they convinced me myself. For a long time I used the 55. I have to admit, I used 55 because I thought we need to be in obedience. And several people approached me on this and said, you need to read these arguments. And I thought, yes. And if you can't get a breviary, you can get it online and read it off a tablet or a computer, which would, of course, fulfill the obligation. But above all, read and understand, whether you get it here or on one of those 2 websites. I'm not here selling books, but if you want it in a convenient book, I'll sell you one. Because I have gone to a lot of effort to put this together, because I think it needs to be in the hand not only of priests, but also of lay people. So, with that, I have my thoughts. God bless you all.